My second week at the trauma clinic felt like stepping into a storm I didn't cause. Sarah Whitman returned, and the air turned electric. Our supervisor, Diana Porter, eyed her like a ticking bomb. Files vanished, cases reassigned. I didn't know choosing to talk to Sarah was choosing a side. 11 months later, Diana's license was suspended, her name stripped from the wall she once ruled. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Sarah invited me into her office one afternoon, quietly sliding a file across her desk. Inside were notes, cryptic symbols, coded emotions, thinly veiled cries for help. She explained her escape, a night run with Aiden, bruises hidden beneath a child's blanket. My heart cracked. Diana had called her unstable, but this was survival. Sarah's clinical insight had become her armor. Her silence had saved them until silence turned into a sentence. During orientation, Diana introduced Sarah only once, a returning staffer with a history. I noticed the forced smiles, the sudden silence in the break room. When I asked about her, someone muttered, "Drama magnet." I found a faded newspaper clipping in the supply closet. Therapist abandons post mid-crisis. Sarah never spoke of it, but she kept a post-it on her monitor. Always document truth. That phrase would haunt me. And later, protect me. A week after the staff meeting, Sarah's therapy schedule was halved without notice. Diana claimed rebalancing caseloads, but Sarah's name vanished from key programs. I confronted Diana. She smiled, cold. Some people aren't fit to represent this clinic. That night, Sarah cried in her car, gripping her custody documents. I missed my sister's wedding to cover her shift. No thanks, just another rumor spread about us. I wondered, was this retaliation or premeditated harassment? Anonymous emails surfaced, claims Sarah breached boundaries with clients. I knew they were lies, but Diana read them aloud during a team huddle, her voice dripping with performative concern. I defended Sarah. That week, I lost my trauma support group, reassigned without explanation. My boyfriend asked if I was too close to the mess. I said nothing. Sarah brought donuts to thank me. I didn't eat. I couldn't swallow the weight. Were we next in line to disappear? A clipboard note appeared. Sarah not permitted to supervise interns. No warning. She sank lower in her chair that morning, clutching a mug like armor. I offered to help with assessments. Diana called it enabling dysfunction. I overheard her later, laughing on the phone. She is practically isolating herself. My best friend Tara, once sympathetic, now avoided eye contact. Even my supervisor logs began omitting my contributions. The walls closed in. Who decides when a truth becomes inconvenience? The clinic's printer spat out copies of Sarah's case notes, highlighted in red, phrases twisted to sound paranoid. Client reported, neighbor watching, now circled, mocked in the lounge. I asked it who accessed her files. No audit trail, they shrugged. I filed a report. Her never responded. Sarah's hands trembled over lunch. She whispered, "They want me gone." I skipped therapy sessions to scan her documents off-site. No one noticed, or maybe they did and chose silence instead. In the clinic's quarterly review, I presented trends on staff turnover. Diana interrupted, "Let's not make this personal." But the graph showed Sarah's clients improving despite sabotage. Sarah stood, voice steady, and listed 5 ethics violations. A hush fell. Diana smirked, then read aloud a disciplinary letter fabricated. I watched Sarah crumble. My chest burned. I threw my badge on the table and said, "I resign." Silence again, but this time it cracked something open. Diana's retaliation escalated. Sarah's car keyed. Her credentials questioned. A board member emailed me, "Withdraw your claims or face consequences." I refused. Tara finally spoke. She'd overheard Diana coaching interns to falsify peer feedback. We recorded a call. My voice trembled, but I pushed send to the licensing board. Sarah's custody hearing was in 2 days. Her lawyer needed time-stamped proof. We had to eat all of it. But the backlash would be brutal. At the hearing, Diana's composed mask cracked. Dates she claimed under oath didn't match logs. Sarah's lawyer held up the call transcript. Force of retaliation, systemic silencing. The judge leaned forward. "Who authorized this?" Diana's lawyer stuttered. I gripped Sarah's hand. Aiden's therapist, neutral until now, submitted her own notes corroborating Sarah's timeline. Sarah inhaled deeply. I whispered, "They see it now." And for the first time, the courtroom didn't feel rigged against her. The ruling wasn't final, but emergency custody was granted. Sarah exhaled like it hurt. I offered to drive her home, but we sat in the parking lot. Wordless, she stared at the custody form. "I thought I lost him," she whispered. I handed her a pen. She circled one line, "Parental fitness established." We cried not over the win, but because for once, someone had believed her. That was a victory no one could redact. I returned to the clinic to pack my things. My office had been emptied already. Diana passed me in the hallway, her stare hollow. "You destroyed this place," she hissed. I paused. "No, you did. We just turned on the lights." I left my nameplate on her desk beneath a sticky note Sarah once gave me. "Document truth." As I exited, a new intern looked up. Hope flickered. Maybe we hadn't lost everything. That night, Sarah sent a photo. Aiden sleeping, court order pinned beside his bed. She captioned it, "Still can't believe it." I stared at my laptop, inbox flooded with threats and support alike. One message from a former client read, "Thank you for not staying quiet." I sobbed into my pillow, not from grief but release. We hadn't just won custody. We'd broken something open for her, for others, maybe even for me. Tara knocked on my door with red-rimmed eyes. "I need to tell you something." She had known about the harassment for months, but stayed silent, fearing Diana would ruin her career. My chest tightened. "You let us drown?" She nodded. I did. "I'm sorry." Her guilt didn't undo the damage, but her flash drive filled with old memos and flagged notes did. Another piece, another truth. I wondered how many more people had swallowed their voice to survive. The licensing board reached out not for Diana, but for me. An anonymous complaint accused me of undue advocacy. My stomach dropped. I requested records. The file included screenshots of my private texts. Someone had access. Sarah gasped. "It's Jaime, our mutual contact." She'd played both sides. I felt cold all over. Diana's reach was deeper than I thought. My advocacy was being turned into misconduct. Now I had to defend the very stand I'd taken. I confronted Jaime at the community center. Her expression was unreadable. "Diana said you were a liability," she said flatly. I believed her. I asked why she sent the complaint. She didn't answer, just walked away. That betrayal cut deeper than Diana's tactics. Jaime had held my hand through panic attacks. Helped Sarah once find shelter. Her silence wasn't neutral, it was a weapon. I filed a counter report, heart bruised. Even allies could become echoes of harm. A sealed envelope arrived, Sarah's old therapy journal, returned anonymously. Inside, detailed records of staff meetings. Passive threats, Diana's undermining tactics, every entry time-stamped. This wasn't just survival, it was strategy. We sent copies to the licensing board and media contacts that night. A local paper reached out. Would Sarah speak on record? I asked her. She paused, then nodded. If it helps others, yes. Her voice shook, but it didn't falter. We were done hiding. The article went viral within days. Former staff began emailing us stories of erased reports, gaslit interns, cover-ups. One described Diana using confidential notes to blackmail a clinician. Another shared screenshots of threats. I compiled everything into a public drive, but with every message, I felt the cost mounting. One email read, "You think you're a hero? You've ruined lives." I closed my laptop. Advocacy didn't come with applause, it came with fallout, and we weren't done. Sarah's court win triggered Diana's legal retaliation, a defamation suit. We sat in a cramped office, pro bono lawyer flipping through case files. "You're truth tellers, not slanders," he said, but stress clotted our spines. Media turned fickle. One outlet called it a messy therapist feud. I stared at our wall of documentation, dates, threats, logs, real, tangible, but doubt crept in. Would truth matter if the world chose drama over facts? We braced ourselves again. The shelter where Sarah volunteered revoked her clearance, citing reputational risk. I stormed into their office, documents in hand. "She saved lives here." The director wouldn't meet my eyes. Too much noise that cut deeper than courtrooms. We'd built trust brick by brick, now shattered by whispers. Sarah smiled tightly. I'm used to being disposable. I grabbed her hand. Not anymore. We'd fight again. But that day, we sat on the curb, battered and defiant, planning our next move. We pitched our own support group at the community hall, unaffiliated, peer-led. 3 women showed up, then 7, one whispered. I saw what happened online. I thought I was crazy too. Sarah facilitated. I watched her voice strengthen with every session. Our truth wasn't just weaponized, it became a lifeline. But Diana filed another complaint, this time questioning our mental fitness. I laughed bitterly. Let them come. Sarah squeezed my shoulder. They always do. But so do we. An envelope arrived at my apartment, no return address. Inside, copies of internal memos, emails between Diana and her, and one damning thread titled "Remove Liabilities Quietly." My breath caught. This was it. Proof of deliberate targeting. I scanned and saved everything. When I called Sarah, she didn't answer. Minutes later, she texted, "Emergency hearing. Aiden's father wants him back," and my hands shook, even with truth on our side. Peace was still out of reach. At the emergency hearing, Sarah faced Aiden's father, a man she once fled from in the dark. He wore a tie, spoke softly. "She's unstable," he said, holding up online headlines. The judge looked at Sarah. She stood tall, voice clear. "Ask Aiden." The court-appointed therapist nodded. "He feels safe with her. He's healing." The room stilled. Diana's words had echoed through institutions, but here truth reclaimed its space. The judge ordered continued custody. We exhaled barely. A local podcast asked us to speak. Sarah hesitated. "What if they twist it?" I said. "Then we twist it back." We shared our story, coded notes, erased files, backlash. The response stunned us. Messages poured in. I thought I was alone. "Thank you," one woman wrote. "My supervisor is Diana's cousin." Our silence had insulated power. Our voice disrupted it, but visibility was double-edged. The podcast's comments turned violent. We doubled our passwords and our resolve. An old intern sent me a message. I was told to lie about Sarah's clinical decisions. I didn't. I was pushed out. She included audio clips, Diana instructing her to reframe assessments. Another piece fell into place. I played the audio for the board's new chair. He leaned back, expression unreadable. "We'll reopen the investigation." My pulse raced. After all this time, someone in power finally said what we screamed. "This doesn't add up. Let's start again." Sarah's sister called out of nowhere. "I saw the podcast. I'm sorry I doubted you." Sarah froze. "You sided with him," her sister whispered. I was scared. They talked for 2 hours, no resolution. But something broke open. Not all wounds bleed publicly. Some echo in holiday photos and birthday cards unsigned. That night, Sarah tore down the tarp covering her backyard garden. "Maybe I can still grow things," she said. I smiled. "A maybe we both could." A grant application we submitted was rejected, no explanation. I called the office. A pause. "We received character concerns, likely from Diana's circle." We rewrote the proposal again. Finally, a small fund accepted a stipend only. But space to continue. We held our first community trauma training. 30 people showed up. Sarah cried after they came. I nodded and they stayed. We were still battered, bruised, but our truth had become soil. Things could grow here. The licensing board's final ruling arrived. Diana's license revoked. Permanent mark on her record. I forwarded the email to Sarah. "She's finally done," but Sarah didn't celebrate. "She's just one face of it." I knew she was right. Systems wore many masks. Still, that night, we lit a candle, not for revenge, but survival. Aiden helped us tape up flyers for our next session. "You fight bullies," he said. I smiled. "We just don't let them win." An invitation arrived. Keynote speaker slot at a trauma ethics conference. I stared at the email as Sarah laughed. "We're cautionary tales or case studies." We debated declining. Too much spotlight. But Aiden chimed in. "You always say, tell the story or someone else will." So we accepted. Not for applause, for the women watching from the shadows, wondering if their pain matters. We'd show them it does. That silence isn't strength, but surviving and speaking maybe is. I revisited Sarah's first notes, the ones I once thought cryptic. Now they read like a survival map. Guarded tone, hypervigilant posture. Her language had always been code for pain. I underlined a phrase. Client masked fear with laughter. It described more than clients. It described us. The world hadn't softened, but we sharpened, adapted, and somewhere in that process, found each other. Not just allies, witnesses. That, I realized, was the real validation we craved. I stood at the shelter's whiteboard, writing, "Truth isn't always safe. Say it anyway." Sarah nodded from the back. Around us, women filled folding chairs, each carrying their own silences. I caught my reflection in the glass door, older maybe, but steadier. The scars weren't gone, just part of the architecture now. Sarah passed me a note, still scared. still showing up. I smiled. That was the kind of strength no system could invalidate. A year later, our trauma center, small but buzzing, held its first public forum. Sarah opened with Aiden seated beside her. "We're not just stories," she said. "We're system survivors." I watched community leaders applaud, not with politeness, but resonance. Diana's name faded from professional circles, her lawsuit dismissed. Our podcast reached 100,000 plays. I now mentor interns, teaching not just protocols, but ethics forged in fire. We don't claim to be heroes, just people who didn't flinch, not forever. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.